Because there isn't a self to generate any real feeling now. Yeah? It doesn't have its own energy source. So the mind invests its energy in it and the thought system thinks about it in the past, and then it gets remembered now. Yeah? It's the only time it can happen. You never remember a past event in the past. You remember it now. So, and the same thing with the thinking about you tomorrow, or even a second from now. It's a form of remembering you now. Yeah? So I'm worried about what I'm going to do this afternoon. And sometimes if you've seen those thoughts over and thousands of times, it seems to be pointless, you know what I mean? Because the day will just take care of itself or whatever. Yeah? But it has a point, and the point is to facilitate the memory of you. Yeah? So, in other words, when there's a thought about where am I going to go after this meeting, maybe our attention or idea, we think it's about where we're going to go, but it's really about who's going to go. Yeah? And who's going to go implies who is now. Yeah. Because who is now, the who can't imply itself now. It's got no juice. Like in Buddhism, it's inherently empty. There's nothing there. Yeah? So it's not like an independent, self-sustaining beacon. Yeah? It's an idea that the mind enlightens. So how does the mind continually enliven, not the big M, but the mental process? It keeps that seeming light on by remembering it. Yeah. See? So just like it says, that little statement, when you remember an event, you never remember the event. All you remember is the memory of the event. Yeah? So when you remember Paul, you're never remembering Paul. You're remembering an idea of Paul. Yeah? And the idea of Paul gets breathed into by the remembering, because it's mind remembering it. Yeah? So mind remembers what it's not, and in a way assumes to be that which it's not. Yeah? Because how could this place seem so real unless reality was taking it to be so? Who would it seem real to? How could falsehood have a sense of how could falsehood recognize a seemingly real feeling? The only thing I would imagine who could assemblage an idea or simulation of reality would be reality. Yeah? I mean, where else? Yeah? What else is going to trigger something seemingly real? It has to trigger what's real to take it to be seemingly real. Yeah? Because nothing else could lend it reality other than reality. Yeah? Falsehood would be basically false, because that's its nature. Yeah? False evidence, the level it can only arise to is it can appear real. To what? To what's real? It's not appearing real to false. Yeah? It's appearing because there would be no appearance. Nothing could arise except by the seeing of it. Yeah? So the seeing of it gives meaning or gives breath to what's appearing. Yeah? Breathes its breath into it. So it's like it says in physics, a simple statement of physics is, in every experiment, the biggest influence is the observer of it. So in any event here, the biggest influence is the observer of it. Yeah? So like they say in physics, if someone's got a big research project and they're studying light appearing as a wave, that's how they see it. It appears as a wave. And then they have another project has all this money to find wave as a particle, so then it appears as a particle. Yeah? So it almost does, it's like we set the tune and then manifestation dances to it. Yeah? So if I'm looking for like trouble, I'll probably find it. Yeah? If I'm looking to see a threat in something, I can find a threat in it. Even though there's no threat whatsoever. But I can find a threat in it. Yeah? How could, what's seeing? What's seeing is the big player here. Not what's being seen or who's seeing. That's a sideline. What's seeing is the big player here. So the mental process tries to circumvent that. It can't get rid of it, but it can sort of distort its obviousness and then try to replace it with an idea, and which it does. But that replacement can never take hold, so it has to appear to take hold all day. So it's a never-ending reinforcement, by remembering self. And it's used everything that's happening, brought to this event by consciousness and contact, seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, touching, yes? It's using all of that to facilitate that agenda. Yeah? And it wasn't doing it, seemingly, when we were kids. Something wanted to come out. Yeah? It wasn't seemingly doing it when we were babies. Something grew, something developed, like a mental process, and then the mental process slowly or quickly started to take away the attention and interest from now and place it into a mythical there and then. Yeah? Because the memory built up. And therefore, its replacement of being so is, I was so and I will be so. And it reinforces and values that so much that I was so and I will be so becomes more important than what's so. Yeah? It overrides it. But it cannot truly override it. It can only seem to override it. So in other words, the magician's trick has to continually go on. Because if it stops, the trick stops. Yeah? So when you're doing something you really like to do, or let's say you're with your kids and there's this great feeling of love, then this whole structure that you call an objective reality called time changes. Something goes super fast. Yeah? Where before, if you seemingly are doing something you don't like, it goes very, very slow. Or when you're not feeling well, it's like fucking every minute's like an eternity. Yeah? So you see that time, there isn't anything objectively called time. It's a construct of mind, yeah? And mind plays it like a fucking violin or a fiddle. If there's an example, spread the principle out. You think that's all it's doing it with is time? So here, and it needs time. The whole you, Craig, needs a whole lot of time to produce a sense of relevance as Craig. Because you can't find any relevance as Craig right now. But you can find it in yesterday and tomorrow. Yeah? So the head, this takes 5 seconds to look at your, let's say 5 minutes, to look at your activity of the head, the thought system, let's say, and see what it values. It's just like with politics and all this yapping. Just follow the money. Yeah? The money is basically dictating everything that's going on. There's no left or right or this or that. It's just all baloney. It's like a giant magician trick to keep your eye off the ball, which is, we look at, this way and that way to blame that when we're getting pissed on from up there, in a sense. Yeah. So this thing here, it thinks about the thoughts of just 5 minutes of it. You'll see the thought system, first of all, is drenched in time. It's always about time. Yeah? You better get this done. Why? Why do I have to get this done? Well, I have a schedule, I have a contract, all fucking time. All day. Alright, so okay. So it values time more than now. That's all you need to know. Hopefully that would provoke a lot of interest in something other than this thought system that you seem to be relying on. Yeah, how much more evidence do you need? All right, I'm inevitably, seemingly here, yet my thought system tends to value there and then. Why? Why would it do such a thing? Yeah? Why? Who knows? Yeah? My idea is because self can't be mind right now. The feeling of being independent, separate, long-lasting isn't provoked by the real condition. Yeah? It's manufactured. And it needs a lot of things to manufacture it. One, the biggest one, is time. So the thought system thinks about you in the past, and it thinks about you as a body. I'm telling you, no matter what you hear, no matter how much you hear that you're this amorphous, non-entity thing, you feel that information as a thing. That's the programming. When the clone gets the news broke to it, that it's a clone, it receives that news as the programming of being a person. That's how fast it is. You can have total evidence that you're a freaking clone, totally whack you in your face, but what's going to quote-unquote get that evidence or understand the evidence or have the evidence is the programming that you're a person. So now the programming of the person will morph around that it's a clone. But as a person. You know what I mean? I'm spiritual, but as a body. Yeah? I'm incredibly non-entity floating around, but as a body. I'm a non-body body. It doesn't matter what you hear. You would think that one bit of evidence would negate all the other shit. It doesn't. It gets morphed around by the other stuff. Your idea of realizing you're nothing is being held by a something. Yeah? And a little bit of that something is going to be injected into that nothing before you know it, and now that nothing is going to be another something. Yeah? So you feel like you got it, and then it doesn't feel like you got it. Because somehow it's been doctored very quickly in the receiving of it. Because the mitt that went up to catch the ball was the programmed mitt. Yeah? You're in the same game again now. The exact same game, but now you're wearing spiritual uniforms. And then you trot around the bases. And you try not to be so competitive. It's just totally ridiculous. You know? Just call a spade a spade. It's much better, much easier. Don't try to morph into a spiritual idea of yourself. Just realize what you're not. And then you'll find out what you are. Instead of trying to find out what you are from what you're not. Because from what you're not is going to lend its meaning to whatever you are looking for to be you. It's going to lend its meaning to it. It's going to tattoo it before you even know it. It's going to boom, boom, it'll be stamped like neutered. Neutered. Self-knowledge will not avail you anything. Doomed. Like, what? I just got the message. No, the getting of the message neutered the message. What? Yeah. It's freaking fair. When there's a reliance on the thought system pictures us as a body. It assumes that we're a body. Maybe it makes a little room for a soul in there, or a spirit, or this and that, but it's a soul in a body, or a spirit of the body. Yeah? Its reference comes immediately up. As soon as anything is understood, learned, try to figure it out, yeah? The system itself neuters it, so it can suck it up into the system. So yeah, thought system values time more than now. Simple axiom. The thought system values time more than now. If you're listening to a thought system, and that listening, it's not hearing it, it's listening. It's a difference. Hearing it is just consciousness, yeah? You're aware of the hearing of the thought system because you're aware of the hearing of any sound. Yeah, there's an awareness there. But listening to it it's a different feeling. There's an intent there. There's an engagement with what you're listening to. Yeah, that engagement is the basis of the sense of selfing. So, okay, you think about you yesterday, and you remember the you you're thinking about now. You can never go, if it's that statement I read is true, that you can never go back to the event, or you go back to the memory of the event. Yeah? Because the event, in a sense, has never happened. It was an appearance, and bye-bye. Yeah? And what is always so, seemingly 10 years ago and right now, doesn't need to be remembered, because it's the same always so. Yeah? You don't need a memory for what is. You need a memory for what was and what will be. A big-time memory. You don't need any memory for what is. Yeah? Because the what is was what is-ing then and will be what is-ing then. So the thought system here thinks about Paul. What was Paul? Paul's been laid up for 10 weeks. See, this is why they try to do, let's say I'm having an operation Wednesday. So what the head tries to present it, he presents it in time. It says, man, you've been laid up for 10 weeks, and they gave me two options. Either it's going to be a cleanup, which I'll be out on my leg in a couple of days, or another big rehab. Yeah? So obviously, from that little logic, it definitely prefers the cleanup. Yeah? You know what I mean? And the concern has nothing to do with the operation. It has to do with the time that the operation is going to steal, supposedly, from me. Yeah? I feel like I've been stolen enough time has been stolen from me already. I'm tired of being stolen from, and I don't want the next future time to be another heist. Yeah? You see, all the flavor comes from time. One event, go over one thing, watch it. Where else are you going to learn about it? You're not going to learn about it intimately from books. You're going to learn about it intimately from this, seeing what's going on. Yeah? When you see what it presents and how it presents it, all the keys of the kingdom are in there. You'll see it. You'll see that it's a structure that needs to be constantly reinforced, managed, supervised. Your whole thought system is about a sleight of hand, trying to keep your all-seeing eye off of that. Because if you actually saw it, you would see through it, because there's nothing there. Yeah? It's all smoke and mirrors. Okay, so here, now, I've gotten over the past now. And now, a big projection into the future. Where do you think the projection is coming from? Not now. It's coming from the past. So now, I've been freed from that mythical place called the past, but now you're dealing with this mythical place called the future. From where? The now? No, from the past. What's provoking a fear of the future is it's a memory of a fear of the past. It's not being provoked now. Right now, you're fine. You already have a pair of pants on. You have a jacket, providing we're in shelter. The police aren't breaking in, hopefully soon. Not soon, maybe at 1, but not right now. We're basically, if we were open to responding to what's happening, we'd be chilled out. Yeah? We'd be freed from Sunday and from Friday. Yeah? And I'll tell you, most of our woes do not come from this Saturday. They come from a past Friday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, or a future Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And then they add years and go on and on and on and on. Yeah? Because there's one event, but you have tons of memories about them now. Yeah? Your life was so short in a sense. What's given it length in time is memory. You've gone over the same fucking thing thousands of times, yeah? Over and over and over again. Not you, the mental process has. To build up this little linear continuum called Paul. And it has to do it because there isn't one, yeah? So you're inherently free of what you seem to be bound to. You are inherently free from what you seem to be bound to. That's the absolute. You are inherently, meaning obviously pre-causal, inherently free from what you seem to be bound to, or as, usually as, or for, or by. That's it. Now, this is a principle. You may not like to go there, and when you go there, you may not milk much out of it, but if you stick with it, it's going to produce an incredible effect. Yeah? Because it's unwavering. It's unwavering. Yeah? You and I are remembered. You and I are only I, and that's what's seen. You and you and you and you and you, and all these yous crowned as me and me and me and me and me, yeah, are being remembered. What we are is the seeing, and you can see the remembrance of self. You can see it. You can see the structure of self. You can see the reinforcement of self. You can see the feeling of self being produced. You can see it all, yeah? And when you see it, there's a very, very strong hit. I can't be what I'm seeing, yeah? And I never do see what's seemingly being produced because it can't be produced. All it can do is it's like a factory that doesn't produce any product, but when you walk in there, all the machines are going, there's sounds, there's boxes, and so you assume, hey, they're up and running factory, they're making something. So all this activity, mental activity is going on, you assume there's something it's making, but it's not making a damn thing. It's just inferring that there's a product. And when you take yourself to be the product, you feel like the one who walked into the factory to see what product they're making. That's how fast it is. You feel like you're already the product when you're starting to think about the product. Yeah? Because you make the leap. You're the final conveyor. You're the product. You're the hamster wheel. You're what energizes the wheel. You are. Yeah? The wheel doesn't make the hamster. The hamster makes the wheel. Yeah? There's no bondage that's making you. There's the making of you that produces the bondage. There's no bondage of the you. There's the making of the bondage through the you. Yeah? The you is made, and then there's the experience of being bound. And usually you never get to the idea you're bound to self. You're bound to that wife, you're bound to that job, you're bound to the physical limitations, you're bound to having cancer, you're bound to this, you're bound to that, blah, 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 blah. There's all these pantomimes of being bound to reinforce the idea that I can possibly be bound. And therefore, then the double whammy is I, who is bound, can become free as the I who is bound, which will only bind you to the freaking idea of freedom. And now freedom will be used to bust your balls again. Everything. Enlightenment's driving so many freaking people crazy. They would have been better off they never heard it. You know? The whole idea of being in a moment basically inferred that they were out of the moment. They started to believe that. Now they're a sucker to buy every book about being in the moment, and they have so much guilt. I'm out of the moment. I must have done something terrible. I'm out of the moment. Everyone else looks like they're in it. I'm out of it. Yeah? This sense of uniqueness and specialness. It's an illness upon an illness upon an illness upon an illness. And when you get back to the root of it, you usually stop there and you call yourself the one who has the illness. No, that's the illness. The one who has everything is the illness. Not what you have or don't have, but the one who has it. The identification as the one who's bound is the bonding. The identification with the one who's free is the bonding. That's the bonding agent. Yes? It's that. It's like a very quick little mental slip. Yeah? It's like the groove of the album is in the first part. The first part, you don't even recognize it. It's in the first part. And then all you play is golden oldies. Oh, this reminds me, this girl reminds me of my last girl, and then my last girl, and then my last girl. This day reminds me of another day that I was here when it was raining. This coffee reminds me, on and on and on. There's a possibility, a very strong possibility, that you are free. It doesn't look the way I thought. Of course it doesn't. It's not glamorous. It's not fucking special. It's not unique. That's why I like to use the term dog shit awareness, because it's like that in a sense. If you want to feel unique, start having powers, you know what I mean? Have people adore you as if you're special, and feed a little bit of that specialness to them so they think they're becoming special. Then you'll feel fucking great. You'll feel special. You'll feel like you can fly above the room. Yeah. But when you're awake, what's the point of flying above the room? You know what I mean? Oh, you can dive into the deepest oceans of consciousness. This is the deepest ocean of consciousness. This is what's bubbling to the surface right now, this event. Who am I to say no to it? Yeah. That's why we've never changed the purpose or the point of the talk for years. Because there's no point to move on if this isn't clear. There isn't. Because the trap will be laid. And the trap is laid in space and time. And you'll fall in it. And you'll be thinking you're getting out of it, but you're trying to get out of it is how you're in the trap, seemingly. Yeah? Right view will lead to right livelihood, whatever that livelihood may be. It could be the right one if the right view is there. Yeah? Right meditation comes from the right view. The meditation doesn't produce the right view. The right view produces the meditation. Yeah? What's the right view? In Buddhism, he made a humble suggestion, anatta, non-self. He didn't say not self in a way, because that would mean that there's a self that could be a not self. It's non-self. Non-self, nor not self. Yeah? Non-self and non-not self. Both polarities. Both of them. Dismiss both. Don't try to dismiss one by getting engaged or identified as the other. You'll be bound by both. Yeah? But you see, non-self means non-self and non-not self. Yeah? You're not an entity. You're not a thing. Who knows what you are? Find out. That's the fun of the place. It'll happen on the least expected moments. You may be in line at Kmart and then something will download on you, and like you would have climbed up a big hill in Tibet if you thought it was there. All you're doing is buying some toothpaste at Walmart, and some download occurs, and then there's no point. You don't have to do anything with it; it'll be used. Yeah, that's what happens here. It's like this whole place, what's ever choreographing this event is like the greatest recycler, the greatest, man. It uses things that you thought had no use whatsoever. Yeah. Like in recovery, people go back out and they've been sober a little while, they start beating themselves up. But if you surrender that event of going out, that going out will produce a deeper timber of your sobriety. Yeah? But from our view, oh fuck, I really fucked up, I went out. No, this is what life's offered you. Surrender that going out and it may deepen your experience in recovery. I've seen it over and over again. Who are we to say this or that? This or that is used constantly. Yeah? Any questions today? I think it's nice and short, brief, tastes very good. Like a superfood. Yeah.
Escargot.
Yes. Just go. Cut the S in car out and go.
So I put a trap. It's a half trap in mouse because I want to make
Sell it.
Yeah. So I got a mouse, I got it, and I go over and say, I'm going to use my neighbors. No, I mean, just a few places away. So I let it go. And I put a trap and we'll see. The next day I say, there's only one mouse. There's another mouse. We do the same thing. And then the next day, there's another mouse. So we start after a little paint, on the film, and I go and release it. And then next day, there's another mouse. And there's a little dog on the tail. Same mouse. It's right there. Release it, come out, and go back to the trap every day. And remind me of,
That's a good thing. That's like the shark things. When they put a tracker on the shark, and then now you just, this is the mouse. Jaws keeps going back.
Now they remind me of.
You gotta take them further away.
Yeah, but if I just came back.
You gotta introduce it to a cat. Introduce it to a cat. That would be the end of it.
And then another thing, I was talking to Chris the other day about and I told you that story, and that's what reminded me at first when you start talking about remembering the future from the past. Fearing the future from the past, and it's so. It sounds so true. But for like 30 years, I lived with that remorse. And when I was a little kid, I was playing handball at the school, and then once a month, once every couple of months, we would send. There was a one-story building, and there was a trap route. They would send a kid on the ladder to get the ball and throw them back to the other kids. And for 30 years, I was like, oh man, because my brother, I was pissed at my brother, and he was at the same school. And he was like, I could see him, come here, boy. I was like, yeah, mother. And I switched with all the other kids. And then finally, 30 years later, we talked, and we were talking, and I said, listen, remember that day, I'm so sorry, man. I should have thrown your ball at least. And you say, what? I don't remember that. I don't remember it, I swear. And you know, you're like, wow, I'm carrying that stuff from 3 years ago. To him, it was like nothing. There was another 30 kids, maybe the other kids, so I mean, everybody sees one event so differently, you know? And it's so true, I remember it and I can see, I can picture myself going on to that, you know? But it's remembering the event. The event past was non-existent, as you said. But I still don't quite get that.
Let's say it happened. Let's say it happened.
It happened, yes.
But it was complete in and of itself.
Right,
It happened and that was it. But the memory
it lives on.
makes something else out of it. And then one memory begets another memory. So the memory goes, it's like, you know, that telephone thing where you tell someone in the cup and then by the time it gets around, it's a whole different story. That's what it is. If all you do is go back to the memory of the memory of the memory of the memory of the memory, and more memories, the more and more distorted and wild it can get. And you can build up huge cases out of no evidence whatsoever. Yeah.
Can you just comment on if, like, you're in a relationship, say, this is hypothetical, of course.
Oh, yes.
And a certain way of thinking of how things are in the past, and then you get some, like, not false evidence, but real evidence about how it was in the past. It's completely different in the now. What's a nice Buddhist way to think of it?
I don't know. I didn't get it. What happened? You feel different now?
No, what if you're thinking your memories are this way, and then you find something that shows you that maybe that there's something
Yes.
else.
Well, why don't you just expand on what was revealed? Then you may see that everything that's been memorized is apt to be different than you thought. Why keep it as a random event? Let your mind expand on the principle of it. The value truly in living now is by the principles. You see something and don't isolate it into just the one event. See the principle in there. If you see the principle, that will be applied to all the events. And then there's a possibility of, instead of like reading, you get the whole knowledge of the book by just reading the title, so to speak. Because in the title, everything is just re-said throughout the whole book. So you see, just like if you see that the future is a form of remembering. It's pretty cool to me. That means it's applied to all the thoughts about the future. One of what's going on is a remembrance of you, of AU. Every one of them. Every one of the past is being used for the same agenda. Every one of them. Don't isolate. So like when you see, I had this idea that this is the way it was, and now it's been proven not to be the case. Well, I had a lot of ideas about how everything was just the way it was, and now this one example has proven that. Exactly. Why not let the mind make a leap instead of staying? Because if you stay at the one thing, you'll have to relearn and be reconvinced, like in AA. AA in recovery, convince is a big important word. It means to believe with certainty. And for some of us, it takes a whole lot of convincing to reach that point of it. But you can get it by one event, just expand. Like last night we were at a meeting and the people were sharing, and a guy came in and he talked about, he's a full-blown addict and drug, drinker. And you could see him, he's had a rough time. And so he says, I had an aha moment. Okay, cool. The aha moment. But with what that aha moment basically usually entails that you realize you're fucked, basically. That can stabilize. So, in other words, your whole rest of your life can be based on that aha moment, so you don't have to go out and get fucked again by drinking and using. You see? The aha moment, if it's isolated, this one event happened, that's a possibility of mind all the time. That's how you start having a sound appreciation or approach to this living, is you see something triggers, let's say, a reflection of a principle, and then it's applied. Just like surrender. Surrender is something else that's talked about a lot in spiritual things and in recovery. But surrender, I didn't know what it really was. I had ideas of it, yeah? And it wasn't provoked by getting run over by cars or shot at or overdosing. But one day, it was a regular day at the office, the last day I got loaded, just trying to stay loaded until I could get high on drugs. Yet, something happened, and my mind stopped. The self-thing stopped. What was producing the self-thing stopped. It wasn't produced by doing something I loved, it was just stopped it, yeah, in its tracks. And after the event occurred, back into the manifestation of time, I realized that was surrender. Surrendering the self, in a way. Yeah? And now I can entertain surrender all day without having a catastrophic event occur or anything to provoke it. I don't need any provoking. Mind doesn't need any provoking. To provoke, it may need once to be provoked, it may need 20 times to be provoked, but it doesn't need 20 million provocations. It can expand on it. You get it. You get it. You get the idea. The whole idea, if there was one event there wasn't a self in, there is no self. Yeah? If there's one example that you weren't there and something continued, you're not there. That's that. Yeah? It's an auxiliary piece. It's not the essential piece. The essential piece was what continued when you seemed to be gone. That's the essential piece. Why not see yourself as the essential piece instead of this auxiliary idea of, I'm an action figure, running around, me, mine. Why would you want to opt for this story? It's boring after a while. Go with the essentials. Yeah? So when something is revealed, its effects never have to stop. They don't have to be bookended with time. Oh, I had that aha moment 20 years ago. You just freeze-dried it with the process of selfing. Let it stay fertile. It is fertile. That was one event in a timeless event called your own mind. Why damper it down and spread the fertilizer of time on it? Let it just sprout up when it sprouts up. And then realize what it reveals is constantly so. Yeah? That's what happened with blackouts. I figured out my own take on blackouts, which is a thing a lot of people get when they become alcoholics, is you're drinking or you're doing a amount of drugs and it reaches a point where you go out. Yeah, or seemingly. You don't know you went out until you wake up, let's say 14 hours later, and then there's a huge story waiting for you. And the huge story is, I blacked out. The last thing I remember was at 10 o'clock last night, I was having that Grand Marnier, and then whatever happened. But in a sense, the next second where you stopped remembering seemingly, there was a Paul there. You bought plane tickets. You made it with a baby. You saw your girlfriend of 8 years. You're not Paul. There was no recognition that you weren't Paul by anything else, but there was a recognition from the primary sense of Paul. It got whacked, and then a second, just like one clone gets whacked, another clone that looks just like you appears and starts doing the same job. Yeah? Well, the sense of selfing got whacked by a huge amount of alcoholic intake or whatever, and then the secondary self, which is many of them, popped up and became the representative. And you bought tickets when someone said Paul, you looked at them. It was like you weren't, I don't know who I am. No, you were drinking, shooting drugs. You were doing exactly. But when the primary Paul shows back up, it can't abide by another Paul ever being there. Because if there's two Pauls, there's no Paul. The whole story of Paul is that it's a singular, individual, separate entity. Not a multifaceted clone like thousands of Pauls. One Paul. One Paul that was born to Mary and Dan Hederman. One Paul that hurt himself when he was 4. One Paul that became a drug addict. One Paul that's in recovery. Oh, there is no Paul. And all you need is one example. If you don't get it, there'll be plenty of more. Life will give you lots of opportunities, but when you realize it, don't realize it in time. Let it expand. Yeah? Let mind see its own principle, which gives it a timeless quality in time. So it translates into a real immunity here. Not just an idea of, oh, they're not my thoughts, but a real sense they're not your thoughts. Yeah? So you're not defined constantly by things and time and everything of this dream. You're not defined at all anymore. Or loosely defined. Yeah? Yeah. So if one thing gets revealed, expand on it. Jesus Christ. Yeah? What brings it this size? The mind. This is just a little clue. That's all it needs. The mind expands. Using the clue. That's what we call a possibility. Entertain a possibility. A very small possibility. But what's entertaining it isn't small at all. It's huge. And what the possibility is going to bring out the hugeness of what's entertaining it. That's the beauty of the message. Or any message that's worth its salt. Yeah? It's not you. It's like those things they call those scriptures living scriptures, because that's what they do. They let the mind, when the mind reads them, the mind expands. Yeah? That's what they do. The mind gives meaning to them to expand itself. Well, why keep it hugged down to, oh, this, I had the moment of clarity. No, what I said at this meeting was, I have the aha moment every day. I'm totally clear I'm screwed. I'm totally clear I'm not managerial quality. I'm totally clear on a lot of stuff that I wasn't before that kept jackpotting me. And I'm not jackpotted like that anymore. For a long, long time. Because I don't have, this is the demarcation when I got it, because if it is that, there'll be a demarcation when you lost it. It's just you came to, and that's that. Yeah. You came to what? 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 You're it. Yeah. These things just trigger it. That's the whole thing with the message. That's why I love it. It's just a simple little message. It's an introductory message. You're the product, and we're stimulating that idea. So that when you leave here, you don't leave the message here. The message goes as you, not with you, as you. And it does, in fact. It morphs right into it. And if repetition's needed, far out. I have no problem with repeating it. None whatsoever, for years now. Because I have total faith in mind. When you seemingly get it, it'll be like you never not had it. Yeah? So therefore, all this seeming time that we're playing around with will have no relevance whatsoever. It's just forget it. You cannot believe how much false breath we've blown into these concepts. It's unfucking believable, really. All these blown up dolls that we have to keep going, each one, keep them blown up because they're full of holes. I mean, all these fucking insane ideas we have are full of holes. We're like constantly huffing and puffing to keep everything blown up. One goes, it informs you of all of them. One's fake, all fake. Yeah, it's not like one's fake, that's fake. You can go that way, it's going to take you a lot of time. It's just one thing, this wasn't real, all of them aren't real. Yeah, mind, principle, expand. Don't keep it in rote, don't keep it in time, don't keep it in learning. Let it become raw again, like when you were a kid. And have that receive the message. Yeah? It expands, and then it will translate into here, because this is the only place it's valuable, is now. Yeah? Selfing will translate it into the giant safe or like treasure trove of wisdom you have, which is not doing anything for you. It's just making your life heavier. Have you ever heard people give in advice that they haven't lived? It's tinny. They're like unhealed healers. They have the concept of the cosmos of the void, but it just doesn't translate to me. Yeah? This is like on the dog shit level, just being somewhat more chilled than you ever were before. And then letting that chilledness keep chilling. Yeah, so that's it. You're welcome.